Welcome everyone, this is Jenkins Platform SIG meeting, July 18, 2023. And today we're lucky enough to have Kevin Martins and Kenneth Salerno with us. On the agenda, we have a few open action items, in fact, just one. As always, we will make a short paragraph about the ongoing work, short because Damien is not there today. And we'll see what has been done. Quite a lot of releases since the last Platform SIG meeting. Of course, it was 1 month ago. And then some news, thanks to Kevin, mostly about Java 17 instructions. So first thing first, open action items. As always, we have a few container images which are deprecated. And, oh, Hervé joined. Welcome, Hervé. And we still have to announce the deprecation to the end users, and it hasn't been done yet. And that's it for the container deprecation. Hervé, would you have anything to add about that?
Not about the container deprecation, no.
Okay, thank you, but don't hesitate to interrupt whenever you have something to say, because you know way more than me about that. I saw a lot of commits, pull requests, and so on your side last week and the beginning of this week. So maybe you could tell us a few things about that.
Yep.
Well, so on the ongoing work which happens, I have seen on SSH Agent, the added support for building Jenkins CI for the next version of Debian is from a new contributor, but it's not ready yet. I'm supposed to give a hand on this PR, but I haven't started yet. Next version, which is not next because it's now current. It was next when the PR was created a few weeks or months ago. It's of course about Bookworm. Then on the Docker agent, Hervé, I've seen something about nano server LTSC 2019 tags. Would you like to share anything about that?
Yeah, first I've made a significant refactoring of the build of the Docker agent.
Yeah.
It allowed me to easily add a Windows 2022 image, nano server and Windows Server Core. And the LTS 2018 is I've got a pull request which had a special case for this additional tag. We already have the nano server 18.9 image, which is a special syntax, and adding the LTSC 2018 19 will allow us to have more streamline in the tag and process around them.
I see. Thank you. Maybe I should have put the what has been done before the section about what is ongoing, because lots of things you have done may be located in the other section. Sorry about that. So no problem. Quite a lot of refactoring in the previous weeks. Not a funny job, I guess, but it had to be done, and yeah, it will be easier in the coming months to do work on these container images. Thanks to that work, and yes, of course, also new Windows 2022 images.
Thank you. For the inbound agent, I've refactored the build process to be like the Docker agent, so we can add a 2022 image too, because the Docker agent is only the base, and we need the Docker inbound agent to be able to use it as agent on Jenkins. So it's yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I intend to do the same on Docker SSH agent.
And I guess it will help when the team will try to regroup all the 3 agents in the same repo one of these days. Then on the controller, there are 2 PRs which are still open. One is about uninstalling a plugin. It's just documentation. document. Sorry, Kevin, didn't mean to be mean. Documentation is super important, but that's not the main place where you think you will find some documentation. Of course, most of the documentation is on Jenkins.io, but having a few markdown files within each repo to help people understand what's going on is kind of useful. So this particular pull request is about how to uninstall a plugin where you're using Docker. And it's based on a blog post which had been published on the Jenkins.io website earlier. That will prove useful, I guess. And then, what is this one? Update Jenkins plugin CLI. I think it's a new contributor. Yeah, he wants to replace the usage of Xarg zone. It's a global cleanup of the Jenkins plugin CLI, except it doesn't work really as expected. We have a few surprises here and there, so it can't be accepted as is. But thanks for the contribution nonetheless. Now, for the latest updates on the Docker images for the SSH agent, we've seen quite a few releases recently, and I think 2 of them are because I made a boo-boo with update CLI. Sorry about that. So we are now tracking the JDK versions. We, of course, updated the Debian version from Bullseye something to Bullseye July. Somehow we managed to have a problem with the CS certificates package. I think it was a dependency we were getting with curl maybe beforehand or something like that, and suddenly it just disappeared. I don't know if you followed that, Hervé, if you have any insight about what happened, but we had to put it down, to put it back in explicitly in the Docker file.
No, sorry.
No, don't you have to be sorry. That's perfectly normal. I know nothing about that. Then we are now tracking NPM and Node version updates also thanks to update CLI. And so we got a new Docker image version for Node Alpine, and we also bumped the NPM version. For the Docker agent, we bumped Debian, Arch Linux, and you told us about that, I think. We now use a multi-stage image for Windows Server Core. Did you tell us about that? I just forgot about it. Hervé?
About?
Multi-stage image for Windows Server Core.
It was, I've split my, the main pull request I've made at first in several pull requests, and that was one of the improvements.
Nothing major about inbound agent for the time being, just the parent image that got bumped. And for the controller, we had several releases, of course, 1 per week and 1 per the new version of the LTS. What I've seen is that we have bumped UB9 from 9.2 to 9.2.6.9.6. Of course, a new Bullseye version. And TZ data, I even don't know why we were not using that. I remember a few months ago we had to add the TZ data for the agents. And I don't know why we didn't put that into the controller, but now it's done. That's pretty cool. Anything about the latest updates of the Docker images? Hervé, Kevin? No? Okay, thank you. Then, end-of-life operating systems. It's been something that has been integrated into Jenkins for a few versions now. So it has started with Jenkins 2.4.07. Now, if you're running an old, outdated operating system or about to become outdated, there is a warning that appears. And we had a few questions here and there about what should people do when they discover they have an old with quotes operating system, and some people showed us their love for outdated operating systems, love or just because they can't get rid of it for lots of other reasons. So yes, it's quite a subject nowadays in the open source community about Red Hat 7, CentOS 7, of course. and so on. And recently we had the news that Red Hat is now selling extended support contracts for Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7, which is good news for some people who can't get rid of that for the time being. So I think it's 4 years. Yes, it's 4 years of extended life cycle support. So people now have a little bit of time before they have to switch operating system, which will prove handy, I guess. But one day you have to do that.
Yeah, Bruno, sometimes it's because the software you run only supports that, and they're forced. Like I know, like Oracle 19 doesn't, it supports 8, but people are still running 7 for that reason alone. So it's not always by choice or laziness.
No, you're right. The previous company I was working for was tightly linked to CentOS 7 for that kind of reason. They only had software that could run on CentOS 7 and couldn't get out of that. So that was really a problem. When you have to recompile Git just every week to get a new version on the target machine and try to get rid of all the CVEs. Yeah, but you have to keep it because the software you are using only runs on CentOS 7 or Red Hat 7 or whatever. Yes, so people will have something like 4 years to try to get their software vendor to update to a newer version of the operating system. Thanks for that feedback, Kenneth. Hervé, will you have any input feedback about that?
No, we're good.
Okay, I guess you like new products, novelty, and so on. I guess you're not running CentOS 7 anywhere.
No, we don't. Our end of life is more concerned. We are more concerned about Kubernetes version. We are on free provider, and so we are adjusting to get the last available version on 3 of them. But it's short. We don't have a lot of version to keep.
Yeah,
we must progress with the last one.
Speaking of old systems, I saw today or yesterday that Slackware Linux was 30 years old. And that's the first distro I ever used. I think it was in 1992, 3 or 4, one of these. And boy, I'm getting old.
Yeah, so that was the second distro I ever used. I used it for quite a while.
Yes, I was really in love with that until maybe 10 years ago, when I saw that package managers were kind of better on other operating systems. So I switched, sorry, Slackware. And also I got really much interested in SBCs at that time, very small machines. And most of them are based on Ubuntu or Debian. So it's difficult to get Slackware to run on exotic hardware. So, but
it's tough. Slackware was always very far behind in versions of all the packages they were maintaining. That was tough if you needed new features.
Yeah. Good time, old times. Oh, anyhow.
It was a charming operating system, though.
It was, yes, indeed, and very, very pastel colors. I remember of cute blue, and yeah, it was cute, tidy, and wow, not Debian, whatever. Sorry about that. Getting old. Kevin, would you like to tell us a few words about the Java 17 instructions?
Yeah, so with the release of Debian 12 back in late May, early June, it doesn't deliver JDK 11, so we've gone ahead and transitioned a lot of the Jenkins documentation to utilize Java 17 and its instructions. So whether it's Eclipse, Tamarin, or we've got updated Alpine, we've got all the regular documentation and installation documentation has been updated accordingly to utilize Java 17 in its examples. The only thing that hasn't been upgraded for installation docs is Windows installation. And that's mostly because the screenshots show Jenkins version 2.263, I want to say, or something like that. So more work needs to be done there. But I've been working on those the last few weeks since I've come back. And so right now, like I said, the Docker and Linux installation instructions have been updated. Docker in pipeline documentation has been updated. And now we have, as of this morning, instructions for upgrading Java 11 to 17 for Jenkins and the JVM. And that includes a video that Darren Pope actually shot, or recorded rather, that goes through the instructions of updating and everything, installation, changing versions on the root and everything. So yeah, I just wanted to share that this should now be more in line with the containers and images and everything that we're providing and supporting at this point. So more work to be done. Still some documentation that is lingering and making sure that the tutorials and other guides are good to go. But yeah, for the most part, a lot of the more straightforward and well, general use text has been updated.
Cool. Fantastic job. It had to be done. Thanks a lot for that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you'd like to address? Something that is not yet on the agenda? Okay, so that's a wrap up. Thanks a lot, folks, for attending. Again, the recording will be available from 24 to 48 hours. And if everything goes well, see you 2 weeks from now. Have a wonderful end of day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye now.